What if I told you that in medieval London, in the scorching summer of 1381, a mob of tens of thousands, fueled by rage and desperation, brought the most powerful city in England to its knees? Imagine waking up to the smell of burning timber, the screams of the innocent, and the chilling roar of a revolution at your doorstep, while a mere 14-year-old king stood virtually alone against the tide. The year is 1381. England, still reeling from the Black Death that had decimated its population decades prior, found itself in a chokehold of poverty and a new, detested tax, the poll tax. 3 times it had been levied, each time more unfairly than the last, squeezing the lifeblood from the common folk. The whispers of discontent had grown into a roar, and that roar found its voice in a man named Wat Tyler. Tyler, a charismatic and furious leader from Kent, became the unlikely general of an army of the dispossessed. From Kent and Essex, across the green fields of England, they marched. Farmers, labourers, craftsmen, all united by a burning grievance against their lords, the church, and the king's corrupt ministers. Their target, London, the heart of the realm. On June 13, the gates of London, surprisingly, opened. Whether by treachery or sheer terror, the undefended city lay exposed. Like a tidal wave, the rebels poured in, their banners ragged, their faces grimed with dirt and purpose. The streets, usually bustling with merchants and gentry, became a torrent of pitchforks, axes, and torches. They hunted down tax collectors, lawyers, and anyone associated with the hated government, dragging them from their homes and executing them in the streets. The Savoy Palace, the magnificent residence of John of Gaunt, the king's unpopular uncle, was systematically dismantled, stone by stone, its contents smashed and burned in a furious bonfire that lasted for days. Inside the Tower of London, a young King Richard II, barely a man, watched the fires from the battlements. Beside him, trembling with fear, were his advisers, including the Archbishop of Canterbury, Simon Sudbury, and the Lord High Treasurer. The mood was grim, the city was lost, and their lives hung by a thread. The rebels, after wreaking havoc, camped outside, demanding to speak directly with their king. On June 14, Richard, against the terrified pleas of his counselors, rode out to Mile End. He was just a boy, small and slender, mounted on a white charger, facing an ocean of angry faces. He sat straight, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and burgeoning regal defiance. "Good people," he called, his voice surprisingly clear, "I am your king, and I will be your captain. Tell me what you desire." The rebels, stunned by his courage, presented their demands: an end to serfdom, lower rents, and no more poll taxes. Richard, perhaps with the wisdom of one beyond his years, agreed to everything. Charters were drafted, sealed with the royal signet, and given to the elated rebels, many of whom began to disperse, believing their grievances had been heard. But Wat Tyler was not among them. He had a deeper agenda, a more radical vision for England. He, along with his fiercest adherents, remained in London. They stormed the Tower, an act of shocking audacity, dragging Archbishop Sudbury and the treasurer from their sanctuary and beheading them on Tower Hill. The mob, drunk on power and ale, continued their rampage. But before we continue, if you're enjoying this tale of medieval rebellion and royal courage, smash that subscribe button. We bring you stories like this every single day. The next day, June 15, brought the final, fateful confrontation. King Richard, now emboldened and perhaps desperate, met Tyler's remaining forces at Smithfield. It was a tense scene. Tyler, riding forward, was insolent, even contemptuous, towards the young king. He made demands that went far beyond Mile End, openly threatening the monarchy itself, even touching the king's bridle. His arrogance was palpable. "Brother," Tyler declared, "the king will grant all our demands. He has pledged his faith to us." Richard, his face impassive, replied, "Assuredly, I will grant you all, and everything else that I can justly grant, and give you peace." But Tyler's tone became menacing, as he called for a sword and some beer, spitting water from his mouth in front of the king, a grave insult. Suddenly, William Walworth, the mayor of London, a loyal and burly man, could take no more. He rode forward, drawing a dagger, and plunged it into Tyler's neck. Another of the king's squires struck Tyler down, and he fell from his horse, bleeding profusely. The revolutionary leader, Wat Tyler, lay dead. Chaos threatened to erupt. The rebels, seeing their leader fall, drew their bows, a terrifying spectacle. It was then that Richard, barely a man, performed an act of extraordinary bravery. He spurred his horse, riding forward alone into the space between his small retinue and the armed, enraged mob. "Sirs, what do you hear?" he cried, his voice ringing with authority. "I am your king. I will be your captain and your leader. Follow me to the fields of Clerkenwell, and I will grant you all that you desire." His audacity, his youth, his sheer courage, stunned the rebels. They wavered. They had just seen their charismatic leader slain, and now their king, whom they had believed to be their enemy, rode towards them, offering peace and leadership. Hesitantly, they lowered their weapons and followed him. At Clerkenwell, the royal army, led by Walworth and other loyal knights, arrived. The rebels, now leaderless and outmaneuvered, were easily dispersed. The revolt was crushed, the leaders hunted down, and many of Richard's initial promises were swiftly broken. Yet, the Peasants' Revolt had carved an indelible mark on English society. It was a terrifying reminder to the ruling class of the power of the common people, and a testament to the raw courage of a young king who, in a moment of extreme peril, chose to face down a revolution rather than flee. Richard II, though his reign would later end tragically, had, on that sweltering June day, saved his crown and perhaps the very fabric of medieval England.